Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode. My name is Andy with Integrity Data Insights, and I help other companies with their reporting and their analytics needs. And I'm so thrilled to have my guest on the show today, Robyn Hobson Hillhouse from Remote Vans. So thanks so much for joining me today, Robyn.
Well, thanks, Andy. Thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, this is awesome. Well, I have a special place in my heart for what you guys do at Remote Vans. Love to hear more about it. But yeah, I'll show you a little bit, but well, I'll just do it now since I'm. But back in 2019, my family loaded up and we went kind of on a road trip adventure across the country. So we started in, I live in Ohio, in Dayton, Ohio, and we went all the way to the coast and back, and that's us getting in our not so luxury van. This is in our 2006 Odyssey, which I still have, and but it was just a fabulous trip. We went to up through Memphis, and that's the Oklahoma City Memorial, and that's us at the Grand Canyon, um, in Vegas. And what I would do is kind of being self-employed, like you think, how can I take 27 days off work, which I didn't. So what I did is I would try to work wherever I could in the back of the van. That's what we'll talk about, what you guys do, and we'd have a couple stops for where we did a layover, kind of, so to speak, where we'd be a couple cities in. This was outside, you can't really see it, but that's Pixar, that makes all the movies. I was
Oh,
obsessed with
that's
Pixar, so I
awesome.
wanted to go there, but my family was on Father's Day, and the van actually broke down.
Oh my
So
goodness.
well, actually, I locked my keys in the car first, so then I had to call someone to unlock it. Waited forever outside of the gates of Pixar like a stalker there, and then and then on the way home, like, all the lights lit up on the van, and like the alternator had, the battery light had come on a couple times, probably because I'm running all this power from my laptop and stuff. So on the way home, the whole van lit up like Christmas, and then it it was the end. So I had to wait on the side of the road for I don't know, hours. I think I fell
Oh my
asleep before they.
goodness.
But anyway, so great experience. But yeah, but so Raman, tell us about remote vans and what you guys do.
Sure, I will. I just want to start by saying what a great experience to have with your family. And despite the hiccups, I think that's what makes it so special. You get through them together, and I just advocate for every single person in this country to go and explore it with their family on a road trip like you and your family did. It's something my husband and I have done, and it's just incredible. But I digress.
Yeah,
So, Remote Vans. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at Remote Vans. We were founded in 2021, and I'm just going to hop over to our
sure.
website. You give me a moment because I think
Yeah,
it's always
you're
great
good.
to see these
Um,
things.
yeah, I
So,
appreciate it. Yeah, here we
we
go.
are very, very proud to make Class B RVIA certified adventure vans. So, as I said, we were established in 2021 by Darren Hillhouse and Tony Alexander. And we started building adventure vans out of an old brewery building in Cincinnati. A lot of interesting times, a lot of lessons, but we can now say that in 2024 we launched our dealership program and we launched our spec vans, because when we started building custom vans, and there were a lot of lessons learned. And then we decided, okay, we've spoken to tons and tons of folks who own RVs, who are in the market. We're listening to the pain points. How can we come up with an adventure van that we think the market would really like, and also that just allows for some of those comforts? So when you shared about your trip, Andy, you were saying, how do you take 27 days off? How do you do that in today's world and still
Right.
work? And something that our founders were really passionate about is you should be able to work from anywhere. You shouldn't let work stop you from going and having this kind of experience. So one of the things we were adamant about is we're going to put Starlink on our vans, and every
Yeah,
single van, and I'll show you the models just now, comes standard with a Starlink high performance dish.
that's
And
so
what that
cool.
means, it is really awesome. And what that means is you purchase a van, you sign up for a Starlink subscription, and you can have internet wherever you go.
Wow.
And personally speaking, my husband and I just recently did a trip all the way to Texas, and I was able to work the entire time. He could be driving, I could be working, I could be driving, he could be working. And it just gave us so much flexibility in what we could do and the spaces we could visit and the places we could stay in. It was just fantastic.
Yeah, just one quick note on that. Wow,
Yeah.
that would be amazing because I'd be in the back seat, you know, once sometimes when my wife would be driving, I'd be trying to write SQL code, the connection would drop, something
Oh
would go
my
wrong. I mean, it was a nightmare. So, and well, sometimes these places we visit too, forget working. Like sometimes for navigation, we would have to
Yes.
like screenshot the directions because you know you weren't always going to have a signal. So, wow, that's a huge feature.
It's great, and I know this is an overused term, but it honestly is a game changer because I've tried to do what you've done as well, and you're relying on cell phone signal, and it's just a recipe for disaster. But
Yeah.
it's something we're really, really proud of. So,
Yeah,
and
so
hence
all of
the
them
name.
come with that. That's amazing.
It is, and sort of hence the name where our brand came from was Remote Vans because one of our co-founders very, very well versed in the demands of remote work. I mean, fascinating story. He worked remotely around the world for a whole year. Another one of our founders is very well versed in overlanding in sub-Saharan Africa, and there you're going into really remote places where there is limited
Wow.
connectivity. So that was something we were really strong on. So I'll
Oh,
just show you.
wow. That's so cool.
So we have three vans in our lineup: the Friday, the Oasis, and the Aegis. And something that's kind of cool, we wanted to be known and recognized as this technology focused brand. So all our vans, their names given have little connotations and tie-ins to technology, which is also quite cool. I'll explain those another day, but
Yeah. I
these
love
are the
though too, like not that and it had to be kind of a different choice, like to be so transparent with the price because like obviously you're not, you know, this isn't you're not selling a pack of gum. Those are not the lowest price. But it's like I love that you're kind of being transparent. You're not like making people guess, you know, it's yeah, it's a really yeah. I love
that's
that you're being
actually
transparent with it.
It's actually so it's actually a learning. Well, there's the whole obviously dealer and sales program and see-through pricing aspect of that, and there's also a marketing component to that. So I've always believed in being as transparent as possible and making it as easy as possible for your audience to find the information that they're looking for.
Awesome.
There, as a marketer, there's nothing more. Well, as a consumer, actually, and maybe you can relate to this, Andy,
Yeah.
there's nothing more frustrating than getting to a website with a very specific goal in mind and just having to go through gate after gate to get the information that you're after.
Yeah, no, that's great. We do have one comment from one of our participants from Matt saying that Starlink is really game changer. So, um, so that's a
It
definitely
really, really
confirmation.
is. I will
So,
agree 110% with Matt. But what I'm really
so,
excited about is to actually just dive a little bit deeper into the
sure.
Oasis, if I may. So the Oasis series, we're really proud of. We're really proud of all our vans here. But what's really exciting is RV Business just voted this van a must-see RV in 2025, and
Nice.
it's just a fantastic accolade for our vans and for the innovation that we put into each and every one of our vans. And I could speak for a long time, but I won't because I know this is more a marketing
Yeah,
kind of chat. But we've got the Starlink, for example. We're the only van company to do that. We've got an incredible rotating seat called the Van Halen seat, which
I
just
have
gives,
seen that.
yeah, it gives so much more flexibility because I'm sure, Andy, if you think back on your trip, I know that it was great, but my goodness, space becomes a real thing when when you're driving across the country.
For sure, for sure. Yeah, I have seen that. If anybody watched and if you check out, they have a lot on their website, like with the video tours and stuff. So I watched one of them. It was super impressive. Just all the attention to detail and just all the, you know, talking about the climate control system and the generator like that. But it was super cool. I definitely encourage anybody to check it out. The kitchen, the shower, there's like a built-in shower. I mean, it's really pretty amazing.
And I really do hope that and again, we took a really conscious decision to put lots of information on our website because, and we'll talk more about this later, consumers in this segment really are educating themselves. They want that information, and it's a big and important purchase. You're going to spend a significant portion of time in this space, so you want it to work for you. But the Van Halen seat, the Cyber Shower, the Starlink, these are all things we're incredibly proud of. And one last thing, Andy, you
Sure.
mentioned on your trip, oh my goodness, that the power was running out because you were charging your laptop and all the lights came on. And, we've been in similar situations, and that's why we said, okay, we're putting the most efficient, most powerful system that you can get in a Class B. And our power system is obviously the Lithionics 51 volts with 16.8 kilowatt hours of battery storage, just for those kind of,
Yeah.
circumstances. So we've been there, Andy. We hear you.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, like I said, we blew out the alternator on ours, and luckily we didn't lose too much time with it, but it was it was yeah, it was a funny experience too, because the place we were in San Francisco, I think, when it happened, and somehow by luck, my wife's super good at researching stuff, so she found the repair place to take it. And then the next morning, we had to get out of the Airbnb, so we were we asked the repair place, hey, do you care if we move our luggage back in the car? And like, no, come on in. So like the person's literally working on the front of the car while we're going through this garage, hauling our luggage into it. So but yeah, so let's shift gears to a little bit, talk about some of your strategies for marketing, or how have you how do you end up marketing a product like this, and what has your experience been like?
Well, it's really been fascinating, Andy. So I was very new to the RV industry. So I think whenever you go into a new industry, you've got to really be open to learn and understand why people do things the way they do, and then you can also come in with fresh ideas. So what was challenging is I was new to the industry, and we were very much unknown.
Right.
And we're still relatively unknown, but thankfully the efforts of my fantastic marketing team are slowly changing that. But it's tough in the beginning when you're selling or you're convincing people to give your product a try, and your product is a luxury adventure van. It certainly is a challenge. So the most powerful thing you can do is word of mouth, and that when you're starting out in a segment like this just takes time. The other thing I'd say is when you're a startup, your resources are usually very limited. So whatever you do, you've got to make sure it works, and you've got to constantly box smart. There is no room to be lazy or just think, okay, I'll chuck my marketing spend here and just, fingers crossed it works.
Right. Did you have to, when you guys were first starting, did you have to, how did you kind of even get footage of, like, did you have to kind of give some of it did you have to kind of have people try them out first and kind of or how did, maybe tell me a little bit about that, like when you're first starting?
So something we were very passionate about was that it was authentic. So we wanted the folks in our videos to be our van owners. So that takes a little bit of time. So we shot a lot of our video tutorials here in-house with our co-founders, and that's how we started. And the segment does a lot of research on YouTube, and that's just how we got going. And then we got our first few customers, and I just made real good friends with these first customers. I said, take videos, share photos. We want everything, because it all relies on community and word of mouth. So it was just encouraging those first few customers to really be advocates for our brand. And how did we showcase that? Because that to me is more powerful than paying an influencer. If you can get a customer to be that advocate, amazing, especially for a startup with minimal resources.
That has to be, wow, that has to be super exciting. Tell us about, like, too, when I think I've heard you talk before, like when customers pick up their van, what that experience is like for them. That sounds super cool.
Honestly, it's a fantastic experience for them, but it is so rewarding for us. It's just to be part of that. So what we do is we roll out the red carpet. The customers would come in, and we'd slide back the door for them, and their face. It's something they've wanted for a long time. For some customers, they've been looking for this dream van for 5 years.
Yeah.
So it's such a special moment. And, they start sharing with you, we're going to go here. My family and I are going up to Colorado. And it's honestly one of the most rewarding things about being in this particular space is just the look on their faces. And then they bring their families, and their kids are jumping in the van, and they're so excited. Or we've had grandparents bringing their grandchildren, and that's the best, actually. They're just the coolest grandparents ever, and their grandkids are in the van. They're like, oh, we're going fishing next weekend. It's so special.
And this is right here in Cincinnati, right? That this
That's correct.
I'm up
We're
in Dayton, but close enough, right?
yeah.
So,
You're just
wow,
around the corner.
so you'd actually do like a big reveal. That's so cool. I remember I used to watch that show. What's one of those, those home makeover shows where they'd always do it where the family couldn't see the house and then they do a big reveal and their reaction. And
The
so
moment
that's
is actually very similar to that, I have to say. Maybe we not mean to start wheeling in like a big wall and then we do the reveal that way.
oh,
But
cool.
it's a very special moment. And it's actually a privilege for us to be part of that moment.
Nice. I want to pop up. We got another comment from Rand. This is kind of a compliment to what you guys do. So, um, yeah. So Rand just promise him we're not paying these people to say these things. um,
Thank you.
so you can just see the passion of that people have for every last inch has been masterfully designed. So hats off to you guys. You must be doing something right there.
Well,
So
a lot of time, and thank you, Rand, for that wonderful compliment. And it's great to see you here. Rand was down in our facility a couple of months ago, hosting a small business evening, and something that we pride ourselves here. We really wanted to build an adventure van that addressed pain points that customers were experiencing, and that took their feedback and then just elevated the quality. It's something. Whew, we measure 3 times, cut once. We really
nice.
are after building, what we believe is the best adventure van in the market, and it's so great to hear that, Rand. Thank you so much.
The biggest part, I remember one of my big takeaways from watching the videos was, and I'm probably going to get it wrong, but one of the guy that was doing the demo was saying, we don't want anything to rattle back here. So we're going to we're making sure that nothing that was huge because everybody, it's so annoying when you're in the car a long time and like something, the other day I had it where I took it, I think I had golf clubs or something. They were rattling in the back and it was like, I couldn't stand it. I had to pull over. So
It's something that Darren, our COO, takes really personally. That van is an official rattle-free zone. So when we test the vans, we are listening for every single rattle or creak because our co-founders know how annoying that can be on long drives.
nice. And one question, just my curiosity is getting the best of me. How long does it take you guys so you take kind of a standard, I think it's a Mercedes kind of whatever the word is, but the Mercedes van, and then you kind of customize it. How long does it take you to start to finish to customize usually a typical van?
So our average van, when we were building custom vans, those took slightly longer. Now that we're building spec vans, it is much shorter. So yes, you're absolutely correct. We build on the Mercedes Sprinter chassis, and an average build time will be about 10 days.
Well, that's not bad. Well, that's great.
We're
Um,
constantly learning, we're constantly improving. We moved into this brand new facility in, I think, was it October or November last year? We've set up a fabulous production line. We've got phenomenal men and women working for us. So we're constantly improving and constantly getting better.
nice. And then you have kind of like a dealer network now, right? Is that what you were kind of talking about? And that's fairly new.
It is fairly new. It's very exciting for us. My goodness, I can tell you, we learned so much selling direct to customer, and that is where, wow, I really got my school fees in a major way. But now we have a dealer partner network, so our vans became RVIA certified.
What does
And
that mean? Not that I necessarily care that much, but what does,
no, that's
for those of
fine.
us not in the business, what does that mean?
So RVIA certification means that our adventure vans adhere to certain codes and building practices. It means they're safe. It means when the customer purchases one of our vans, they are assured of a certain level of quality. And
Right.
I don't know if you know this, but without RVIA, you can't sell through a dealer network. So it's an
Okay.
very important certification, and it's administered by the RVIA. Sorry, the acronym's a bit
That's
tough.
okay.
RVIA, and they come on out and they send auditors out and they inspect your facility and your product just to ensure that we are adhering to that code. So we got that certification, and it was a long task. It took us about, I believe, a year to complete all that was required for that certification. It's something we're very proud of,
Yeah.
and we got that certification late last year, and our first dealer came on board in March of this year. And we've got a growing dealer network. It's honestly just been fantastic. We started on the West Coast, now we're in Texas and Arizona and Florida, and it's just fabulous.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's what, so you guys span the whole country, right? I mean, that's
We
pretty
do.
fabulous. Um, yeah, thanks for sharing. Yeah, that's quite impressive. I mean, to get any kind of certification is never never simple. So that you guys should be really proud of that.
It always takes longer than you think.
I would bet. Let's switch back to the marketing for a little bit more.
Sure.
As a data person myself, like, you know, and I've kind of think I've told people this before, but I've always been around the marketing department, even though I've not. And now that I'm, you know, I guess working for myself, I am the marketing department. But back in the day, you know, when I worked for big corporate, I supported the marketing department a lot. Like I ran the marketing database team. Love your thoughts on just what kind of things, I guess, measurements do you look at? Like, is there any specific things? Like, how do you know if what you're doing is working? Or, I mean, obviously the sales speak for themselves, but other than that, I mean, is there other things that you kind of look at and hang your head on how your marketing's doing?
Of course. So I think we're very fortunate as marketers today where we've got an absolute wealth of metrics that we can look at. And I actually, funny enough, had a very good session with my team last week where I was talking about the value of metrics. And not in my mind, not all metrics are created equal. So for where we are right now as a smaller company that's starting out, I don't want my team to get bogged down in reporting on every single metric available.
Mm-hmm.
So I firmly believe, and also part of my background is I used to manage sales and marketing in a former role. So I've got a lot of insight into sales and those metrics, and I firmly believe that they can help marketing support sales and do a better job.
Okay. Yeah.
Because of keeping that context in mind and the fact that we're a little bit smaller, I actually tend to focus on the most important one, which is are deals closing? And that is the most important. So I start there, which is a little bit unconventional because I know traditionally in marketing, we're starting at the top of the funnel and we're looking at
Yeah.
website traffic and all those converting. So I start right at the bottom. And I'm like,
Right.
right,
What?
are we getting sales? Because that's the most important right now. And then I look up and I go, okay, how did we get those sales? Okay. Then I look one step further.
Yeah.
What kind of leads are we getting in? So to me, closed sales are very important because I firmly believe that marketing heavily influences your deal close rate. And not everyone will share that take because they would argue that it is the sales agent. But I firmly believe marketing pulls in leads. And if they are of a certain caliber, they will close more quickly. And it will be much easier for the sales agent to close that deal. So we look at our closed deals, very important, the
Yeah.
source where they came from, and we look at our number of leads. Everything else at the moment is noise. And I don't know if I mentioned, we look, yes, where they come from, their source. So Andy, we're at the size where if email is working, for example, I'm going to push more into email.
Uh-huh.
And that is just, right now we're at a stage where do more of what works, don't overcomplicate it.
Right. And that's great. Just a couple comments based on what you said. I love that you're kind of have that approach because, you know, especially in bigger companies, because I've worked with, and you end up with this blame game, right? Where the sales is, you know, kind of fighting with marketing a little bit,
Yes.
right? Like they didn't make their number and then they kind of will blame marketing. Wait a minute, you guys didn't give me enough leads. And then marketing will say, what do you mean? I gave you plenty, you know? Like, so I think it's good that you're kind of focused because at the end of the day, like, you know, that's what matters, right? If any of the other metrics are kind of vanity, really, I mean, so that's good you have that approach. Yeah, because I get caught up sometimes. I don't you know, look at all my stuff that much because it can kind of get in your head, but it's kind of you know, the impressions and um engagement and all that kind of stuff. Do you guys see kind of a lot of balance between kind of inbound, like people contacting you versus outbound kind of leads that?
Sure. So I've set up the marketing function here to heavily drive inbound because to me, that's given our size and where we are, that is the most valuable. I also came from education technology, and my goodness, Andy, we deployed a lot of resource into outbound and we just got nothing for it.
Yeah.
because of the segment we're in and because of the nature of the product and the research the customer does, we rely heavily on inbound. And I would say where we're at right now, I wouldn't want to stray too far into outbound. I think it can be a massive cost at this point that I don't think will generate enough return on investment for where we're at right now.
Right. And then I guess that kind of goes back, but showing my little bit of marketing thing, do you kind of organic versus paid? Do you guys have a preference on that? I mean, obviously everybody wants organic if you can, but
Oh, organic is the way. But I think personally, from my experience, and this is not just about my time at Remote Vans, I've helped several startups. And when you are starting out, you've just got to rely on paid, which is tough because no one really knows you. We live in an age where there is so much content. Consumers are assaulted with it. That's the best way I can describe it.
it's a great
And
word.
it's hard to cut through that clutter. And I think in the beginning, you need that little lift that paid is going to give you. And then you just seed your organic content alongside that. And eventually it will switch and it will balance out. But in the beginning, you have to rely a little bit more on paid.
Yeah, that's just another story from my past. My wife was involved in starting this nonprofit years ago. And I remember, I didn't know much about any of this stuff, social media marketing and stuff, but I was interested in it. So I kind of got my hands dirty a little bit trying to help them build some awareness for what they were doing. And I was blown away. And I'm sure it's way better now, but it was crazy the amount of targeting you could do.
It's incredible.
I would target, I don't know, women above a certain age or that had some interest in children because it was kind of a children's nonprofit. But I can't imagine now. I haven't tried to do that, but I can imagine what the stuff you can target now has got to be ridiculous.
It's actually incredible. And I was having this chat with my team. So when I started out in digital marketing was really new and it was really exciting because prior to that, you had to put up a billboard or a TV ad and just hope that people saw it.
Right.
And then suddenly we got digital and we could start to track these metrics and track, okay, someone landed on our website and they spent 2 minutes here and then they clicked the purchase button. This is so exciting. But it is fascinating. I don't want to give away too many company secrets or marketing secrets, but targeting is fascinating. And that's something, Andy, I should have actually brought up earlier. If you are resource strapped and you are a startup and you've got to spend your budget wisely, targeting and effective targeting is a fantastic tool in your kit.
Right, because otherwise you're kind of, you're magnifying as in the people you care about aren't listening, right? Pretty much.
Exactly. To give you an example from the van industry. So I haven't been there, but I've heard Maine is very, very cold in winter. So no one's probably going to buy a van in winter in Maine. But in Texas, it's not that cold. So if you're going to deploy budget somewhere to advertise your vans, advertise somewhere where it's a little bit warmer and people are more likely to be interested in a van.
That's great. Yeah. I can imagine. I mean, it's just, it's got to be a lot of trial and error too. Do you guys do a lot of, I know another thing that was big and they would do these kind of A/B testing stuff. I don't know if people still do that or not. Is that still kind of a common thing in the industry?
I can't speak to the industry, but we certainly do it. It's very helpful. And this is more sort of from my personal experience as well. I was brand new to the industry, so I wasn't sure what was going to work. I could make educated guesses, but we didn't have enough data at that stage. So we did certainly do A/B testing, and somewhere A/B testing is so valuable. And if this is the only thing people take away from this interview, if you're building a website, do heat maps, do that sort of analysis, and do A/B testing. It's the most valuable thing that you can do, because at the end of the day, that website is where people are going to convert for a lot of your products or services. Run those A/B tests. Maybe that button needs to be green, maybe it needs to be purple. We just don't know.
And is it difficult, technically, to set that stuff up? I mean, obviously, just set people that don't know that basically, and tell me if I'm wrong with this, but A/B testing is basically you have your website that kind of you were showing earlier, and maybe you have an alternate version of it where maybe the image is different, or maybe the font, or right, and you're kind of launching it, and certain people get, when they visit it, they'll visit certain traffic goal. I know there's is it a load balancer? I don't know what the technical thing is, but there's some kind of thing that splits who sees it. Is that correct? Just to make sure we're all on the same page.
We're all on the same page, and you'll find, so a software tool that I have used in the past, Crazy Egg. for example, will do
Huh.
heat maps, they'll do user tracking, they'll do an analysis, and they have a built-in module where you can serve A/B tests. Facebook, for example, Facebook has a built-in feature where you can run A/B tests on the ads that you're serving across their Meta platforms. So it's become a lot easier and a lot more accessible for people to A/B test their content, their design, their advertising. It's not like it was back in the day where you had to hold up a web page and run the results yourself after 2 weeks and then do another page and sort of make educated guesses. It's all become a lot more accessible.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. I didn't I've heard of it, but I'd never have gotten in the weeds of it. So it sounds like it's definitely worth the effort.
I can say it is very interesting. I do love data in that way, and it's amazing. For example, I just want to share one little anecdote.
Yeah,
We did
no,
our new
great.
burn page, and we had just the heat map activity, and so many people thought this one particular image was a button, and we were missing out on so many click throughs, and people were getting so mad that they couldn't click on this one image to take them somewhere. And it's a change you can make instantly. It makes the user experience so much better. It leads to more conversions. Honestly, if you invest in one thing, get that kind of software that you can do that heat map
Right.
activity and user tracking.
I should try it on my website. I don't know if I have enough traffic, but it's probably worth it to see what it looks like.
The results are fascinating. I highly recommend it, Andy. Go for it.
Oh, awesome. So let's talk about, I guess, a little bit just what it's like working for kind of a startup company. You said you were one of the first employees of the company. Maybe walk us through what was that like compared to maybe what it's like a few years down the journey, and
Sure.
just what's that environment like?
It's never dull. It's never ever boring. I've worked for several startups in my career now, and I can tell you one thing: change is constant. It's happening daily, and it's never boring. And I firmly believe, having worked in a startup, having hired for startups, you have to attract a certain type of personality who's okay with juggling lots of things and who can constantly reprioritize tasks in their head based on new incoming information, and be a team player. You asked me what an average day was like. My goodness, in the beginning, Andy, wow. It varied between, okay, we've got to build a website, but we've also got to put up an Instagram post, but we've also got to go help
Wow.
hang cabinets in a van. And oh my goodness, we have to wash a van because a customer is coming to collect it next week. So you're everything to every department. And I always laugh because you said earlier you were the sole marketer in your company. I was like, well, I was the marketing department of one. But you really, it's a fascinating space. I absolutely love working in a startup. You're in the trenches with folks, you're building something special. And what I also love about startup is you can have an impact from day one. So Andy, you asked me what it was like in the beginning. It was a little bit of a roller coaster, but everyone made it through. And what's also fantastic about that is, because I helped out in so many different areas, I got a really good grounding on the overall business and what it takes to build an adventure van, to market an adventure van, to sell an adventure van. What is warranty and service about? So it gives you this really great broad knowledge of the business and the products. And then when new people join, you can highlight that information and share pain points with them and help build processes that will work. Now it's still a roller coaster, Andy, but it's a lot calmer.
Nice. Yeah.
um, I'd say the biggest difference is, obviously, you have a lot more people and you've got a lot more processes and systems and infrastructure in place to support the company goals. In the beginning, it's often just 4 or 5 people in a room just working and hoping for the best. And now there's structures, and we know, okay, it requires X, Y, Z to get this brand from entering the production line to the customer's hand.
Wow. Yeah, I love that. That's a couple of thoughts too that came to my mind when you were saying that. Is I love the making a difference part, because that's been the biggest. The people ask me, what's it like, kind of being self-employed compared to working for someone else. I love that part of it, because everybody's been in one of those situations where you're in a big,
Yeah.
some bureaucracy or something, and you can't. I remember you had a great story. I'll have to see if we have time for, but in one of your previous roles, you had a great story where you couldn't get something through that.
Oh,
Remember,
yes.
that was a great. So but that anyways, I've had, everybody's had that, where you can't, kind of what needs to be done. You can't get through the red tape or whatever's going on. And I love, like, that's why I love kind of working with, mid-sized companies is probably my favorite, because work for big and small, but I love kind of being able to, like, hey, I think this is what we should do. Somebody makes a decision, we're off and running, and a couple weeks later we actually have something, rather than a lot of people, will it can get paralyzing, where you're just thinking about it and you don't make a decision. So
Absolutely. And again, you can have impact from day one. You can be so much more agile. I've worked in both. I've worked in large corporates where, oh my goodness, months have gone by and you're still talking about the same stuff at the same table and nothing's happening. And I think that's I've always said to people starting out in their marketing careers, get a role at a startup. You will learn so much more than marketing, and it's one of the most valuable things in your career.
Yeah, that's really good advice, because you've worked for bigger companies as well, and sounds like you're like me, where you love the smaller things better.
I do, because I feel like you get in at the ground level and you can really shape the company's future. You can really have an impact not only in the product, but the people and the culture. I've always loved startup. And for a marketer, especially, if you can get in at that ground level and you have that kind of influence and insight into the product, that is such a gift for a marketer, because often as a marketer, you're at the end of the chain and they're saying, well, here's the product. And now you need to go and make this product great to everyone. You need to deliver on sales. There's a lot you need to do. And to be here at a startup like this one, and in previous ones I've worked at, you're there, you have a seat at the table, and you're actually talking about the product. And that I've always believed is such a gift for marketers. And that story, if I just want to share that anecdote. I worked in a large organization. I was the head of social media, and a very famous celebrity in Africa tweeted about our brand. And I ran down to the department in question. I said, oh my gosh, she said something about our brand. We have to respond. This is just social media gold. And this was in 2012, where it literally was social media gold for this to happen. And they said, okay, we'll get back to you. We just need to run it by legal. And I walked upstairs, and I was so naive. I thought they'd get back to me within maybe an hour, worst case. Andy, I'm not kidding. They got back to me about a month later with a reply that was sanitized. And I mean, like, a day in social media time is a year. Try a month. It's decades.
Right. Wow. Yeah, I can imagine that. I had to put my foot in my mouth one time at just one quick funny story on that. I was at this in-person networking event, and there's probably 50, 60 people there. And I don't know, I was talking to the guy next to me, and somehow he was saying, similar kind of story, where he was saying, something about the lawyer holding it up. And I just made this comment, I just said, oh, the lawyers, or, I made something like that. And then of course later they go around to introduce everybody, you have to tell what you do. And wouldn't you know that the guy right across from me was the only lawyer in the room. So I apologize. I told him, like, look, I don't have any, but I think he knew I was just trying to be funny, but that was a foot in the mouth kind of moment there. But yeah, one of the last things I want to talk about, and you kind of hinted at it, love to know, for those of us, you notice your accent, you have a little bit of an accent, you're not different probably from Cincinnati. So you're originally from South Africa. I'd love to just hear a little bit about how did you end up in, Cincinnati, Ohio, from South Africa, and tell us a little bit of what it's like there, for those of you, those of us that have no idea really what it's like.
Well, I'm a very, very proud and passionate South African. So apart from, tracking users on your website to learn how to make it better, the other thing you need to take away from this interview is, if you have the opportunity to visit South Africa, you really should take it. Obviously, I'm not objective at all, but
great.
Wonderful people, incredible culture, amazing food, landscapes that you just will never forget, and incredible wildlife. I cannot speak highly enough about my home country, and the people there are just phenomenal. But how did I get to America? Well, Andy, an opportunity presented itself, but it required me to get the O1 Exceptional Skills Visa, which I must say is a very difficult visa to get.
Exceptional Skills Visa, I never even heard of that.
Well, I laughed because when they screen you for it, the first question is, have you won a Nobel Peace Prize?
Oh, You serious?
I'm serious. And I laughed, and my lawyer said, look, don't worry. They have to ask that to everyone. And I was like, well, I have certainly not won one of those.
Maybe you just say yes and see what happens.
But it was a lot of work to just put the application forward, and luckily it was accepted. My fiance at the time lived in Cincinnati. He's now my husband. And
Yeah,
that is how I got to Cincinnati, and an incredible opportunity with a startup in a very exciting space as well. But yes, that is how I ended up in Cincinnati, and
that's so
my
cool.
accent is certainly different. I apologize if
I
no one
like
can
it.
hear
No, it's
it.
good. I have a Cleveland accent, or I think a lot of it's gone, but my wife will still point out that because I'm from Cleveland originally, and I think that's how I ended up in Dayton, was a similar kind of thing where met my wife down here, and then I've been in Dayton ever since. So yeah, that's an incredible story. Paint the picture one last thing. I mean, is it, you know, you've lived in Cincinnati now, you've lived in South Africa. What is it like? I mean, what would you kind of see differently? Is it kind of similar? Or is there things completely different? It's just hard to know if you've never been there.
I think it is quite different. Um, I do think Cincinnati has incredible public transport, for example, which is something that South Africa doesn't have. South Africa has a very fragmented public transport system, and that is quite a challenge. I think the people here are incredibly friendly and incredibly polite, and culturally that has been a bit of a game changer, because South Africans are very, we say what's on our mind. Where I've had to learn here, it's very, very polite. That's not to say I'm rude, it's just very polite here.
Yeah, yeah.
The biggest difference, actually, on a personal level, is jaywalking is not allowed here. And jaywalking is very much just how South Africans cross the road. So my husband will still have to pull me back and be like, Robyn, you can't do that here.
Oh,
And
that's great.
one last thing, I just think South Africa is a really spectacular country. Um, it really, I cannot say, the landscapes are just incredible. So I think that is somewhere that South Africa just shines on a global scale.
Yeah,
And but I have to say, Cincinnati has been very, very welcoming. I think it's a phenomenal city. I love that there's something happening every weekend, and whether you're into coffee or beer or whatever it might be, there is a
uh-huh.
festival for you. I'm telling you, and I think that's phenomenal. It's been very welcoming, and I really, I can't speak more highly of it.
Oh, great. Well, I think that's about all the time we have. But Robyn, thank you so much for joining me, sharing your journey, getting me back into the spirit of, wanting to take another road trip. And so if people want to learn more about you or remote vans, what's the best way for people to learn more?
Sure. Well, please feel free, if you want to learn about our adventure vans, head on over to remoteVans.com. We're also on Instagram, where we share a lot of cool content from our customers and from our team here internally. So we are remote.vans on Instagram. We're also on LinkedIn. We're also on Twitter, and we're also on Facebook. Catching up with me, you can find me on LinkedIn at Robyn Hobson, or you can find me on Twitter, or X. Apologies, I still call it
Yeah,
Twitter.
me
And I'm
too.
Robyn Hobson there as well. I don't think I'll ever stop calling it Twitter. I mean, I was there when Twitter, like, I feel like at the beginning stages. I don't think I'll ever call it X.
Me too. Yeah, it's a different world now, but yeah, I kind of the same way. But thanks so much, Robyn. This has been great, and please reach out to them and um, give them all your support. They're doing some great stuff right here in Cincinnati. So thanks again, Robyn. I really
Thank
appreciate
you
it.
so much, Andy. And thank you to everyone who listened in and who maybe is watching this recording. We really, really appreciate it.
All right, thank you so much. Take care, everyone.